Hello, Ara here, and in this clip I want to go through a workflow that I use to generate a spacesuit for a character. So just a sci-fi spacesuit. I can use this exact same technique to generate a monster or any kind of pattern that I want on a character. So here I just basically have a male character, and I've polygrouped him in a certain way where I can basically section off the different parts of clothing if I want to. And in this second piece here, I've basically just taken out the head and the fingers, and this is what I want to work on is this outfit part. Now, a couple of things that you need to do with your model is make sure you've got UVs on it. So you can either purchase one with UVs or make your own. Make sure it's polygrouped, and make sure you have enough subdivision levels. So with this one, I've got 5 subdivision levels, so I'll bump it up all the way to the highest subdivision level by hitting the D key or just using this slider right here. And also, I'll just bring up the one underneath. So basically the guy's over here and the outfit is on top. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off polyframe so you can see that the outfit is on top. It's a little bit intersecting the model, but that's okay. If I don't want it to, it's easy enough to just go in here and use the inflate button under deformation to just give it a little bit maybe more of kind of a relief from the body so it's not intersecting. So I'm just going to go to like maybe a 2 here. That looks great. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is store 2 states of this costume. The first one is a morph target, so I'm just going to go to the morph target here and store a morph target for it. And the next thing I'm going to do is in the undo timeline, I'm going to control click on the state where I want it to be, which is this basically initial state where it doesn't have any paint on it. And now I'm ready to start doing the magic, which basically is very simple. I choose the paintbrush, so BPM I think is the shortcut for it, and choose for the stroke, drag rectangle, and then choose a texture. You can import a bunch of them from the internet or wherever you want, and I've got some pictures of motorcycles here, maybe an x-ray of a laptop, just anything really that is interesting to you. In here we're doing a sci-fi suit, so I'm going to actually choose something more of a sci-fi pattern. So let's say I choose this one right here. And with the drag rectangle chosen, I can just click anywhere on the model and then just drag out. And as I'm dragging out, it is scaling up that pattern, and I can move the mouse up and down to rotate it. I've got symmetry on, so it's basically creating a symmetrical pattern on the character. So here we go. I'm just getting a really interesting kind of looking pattern on here, and I want this to be his spacesuit. Now notice that I don't have this happening on the back because I've got back face mask on in the brush menu or brush palette. The auto masking sub palette, I've got back face mask on, so I can do the back separately like so. As a matter of fact, I can be painting this on from any angle. So here I'm just painting from the top, and I can continue to do this until I find an interesting pattern that I like for this person's kind of sci-fi spacesuit, or maybe he's some sort of a astronaut or some sort of a space soldier, something like that. So here we go. I'm getting to an interesting point. I can also do this from the side. This is looking pretty good. The next thing I might want to do is maybe colorize this a little bit. So the image I picked was a kind of a monochrome image, but you could have picked any image. You could have picked a color one. So here I'll just go ahead and pick this motorcycle and maybe add that on top. So that's actually creating maybe more of a interesting color look. And if I don't want to change, if I like this part, for example, right here, I can just mask it by holding down Control and leave that there and augment this on top. So now that I have this and I like it, I can always go into the Poly Paint subpalette here and click on Adjust Colors. And if I don't want this to be orange, I can always shift the hue to something else. So let's say I want to go for this kind of light blue color here, and maybe I can play with the intensity a little bit and the contrast to get exactly what I want. Click OK. So now I basically have this as the spacesuit. So this is the first part. It's basically getting the paint of it. And then if I want to store this so I can bring it on later, I can just go to the texture map menu here and create a new texture from Polypaint. And now I've got this on my UVs and I can clone that. So now I can bring this back on whenever I want. So if I want to create another one here, let me make sure I cloned this. I did. And if I want another texture, I can always turn this off and then start with a new image. This time I'm going to go ahead and maybe use this car right here. And it doesn't matter. I've got RGB intensity on 100, so it's just going to overwrite what was there. So here I'm coming up with some other type of design. Again, similarly, within minutes, I can get something really compelling looking. And again, depending on the images that you have, you can get all sorts of really interesting patterns and interesting suits. You can get hundreds of these in a very short period of time. And so you can either save them all as different textures, or you can also save them as layers, and with layers you can also erase certain parts if you want to show what's underneath. So here we go. I'm basically getting a different look here, and again I can always do the same thing. If I don't like this yellow color that this suit has, I can get a different one. So now I'm just going to go ahead and say new from Polypaint, and I've basically created a new texture. Now the next thing I want to do is I don't want to do these with just color, because color is really good, but maybe I want some relief. I want to actually generate geometry from this. So to do that, what I will do here is just go ahead and use this new feature that is in ZBrush 2021.7, and that is to mask what's changed from where we stored that undo point. So here I'm just going to go into the masking menu and click on mask changed points. So what that's going to do is just mask the points that were changed. If I want to see this better, I can always go to Subtool, turn off that Polypaint, and I guess I need to make sure that the texture map is off, right? So now I can see that mask, and not only does it mask it, but I can also, and this is new as well, is go into the masking menu, and I can either dilute that mask or boost it. In this case, maybe I'll dilute it just a little bit so I can get a little bit more of this. And now that I've got this mask on, all I need to do is just go into the deformation menu and just use the inflate here. And the inflate really kind of jumps up. It's pretty harsh. So I'm going to just kind of go up to maybe about 17, and I don't really care about what it does. And I can maybe hit it a little bit, excuse me, with a little bit of a polish as well. So I'm just going to say polish by features, and that basically will smooth out some of these jagged edges. I can continue to do that until I get to a point where I like it. Of course, I can always also hit it with the smooth brush. And as you can see here, not only do I have this as a Polypaint, not only do I have the paint on it, but I also can have the relief. So I can turn them both on, and now I've got a painted suit as well as the Polypaint. Now the next thing I want to do here is this is maybe a little bit too harsh. So since I stored a morph target, I can always go to that morph target, and I can adjust that in either direction to get something a little bit more subtle, let's say like this, or something even harsher by moving it. And so this has a little bit of a finer tuning ability than just the inflate deformation, so you can get something more compelling and exactly the way you like it. And of course you can use all your sculpting tools to go ahead and modify this. You can peel off panels and make them into maybe a knee pad or a shoulder pad or something like that. But it's a really neat and quick way to go ahead and generate these really quick kind of spacesuits, and then you can do 20 or 30 in a day and put them in a review process, or pick the one that you think is best for whatever project you're working on. So hopefully this has been useful. I hope you guys are having a good ZBrush summit, and happy ZBrushing.